Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're going to take a look at the new microcode update for the Intel 13th and 14th generation processors. This is going to be using my ASUS Z790 BTF TUF gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. It seems to be one of the last boards to actually get the update, so yeah, early adopters, you know how it is. Anyway, this hopefully should fix the problems with Intel processors crashing or having issues. Now I should say, in full disclosure, I haven't had any major issues with my platform at all, and in fact from day one it's always been undervolted anyway, so reducing some of the voltage which the processor is allowed to use. Temperatures have been pretty good, and the results that I've been getting from doing things like Cinebench tests and gaming and all those kinds of things have been pretty much exactly where they should be. Now I should say as well, my system has been using other technologies such as the core isolation and all those other kind of things which do reduce performance very slightly, so yeah, do take that into account when you're looking at some of the scores and figures. I've already done some benchmarks as well, just so we know where the starting point is. Currently the motherboard is on the latest BIOS prior to this new microcode update, so we're going to go over to the computer, download the new update, apply it to the motherboard. We'll also take a quick look at my settings so you can see what settings I had previously. Then we'll do the flash, then go back in, see what the settings are like and do some benchmarks and see what the performance is like, see if there's a massive hit and see if it makes much difference at all. So with all that said, let's head over to the computer and get things started by getting the BIOS download ready. So we're on our Windows desktop. I've got my USB drive plugged in, so let's quickly take a look at the USB drive. Yeah, there is some stuff on there already, so we'll go through and do the usual. So we'll just format the drive, wipe it in its entirety, make sure it's FAT32, all the usual kind of stuff. No volume label, that's always a good thing to do. So we'll click on Start. This will erase all the data, which we're happy to do. And the format is complete, so that is our drive prepared. So now we can go over and actually get this BIOS update. So this is the motherboard, the ASUS TUF Gaming Z790 BTF Wi-Fi. It's actually a pretty decent board, I like this board a lot. And we'll go over to the BIOS and firmware section, which it seems to have gone to already. And there we go, so there is the new beta version. So previously I was using this one here, version 1661. That's been out for a little while now, so we've got this new beta version, and it says that the new BIOS includes the Intel microcode update 0x129 and adjusts the factory default settings for the non-K processors, enhancing the stability of Intel 13th and 14th gen desktop processors. Updating this BIOS will simultaneously update the corresponding Intel ME to version 16130 2307v4. Please note, after you update this BIOS, the ME version remains the updated one, even if you roll back to an older BIOS. So it doesn't actually say anything about K series processors, so yeah, we'll see how this goes. So we'll click on Download, and we'll save this to our Windows desktop. That's pretty quick. And very important, make sure you unzip the file, so we'll do Extract All, and we'll extract it to our desktop as well. So now we've got the BIOS renamer, and also we've got the file itself. So I'm actually going to do a copy of that, and then I'm also going to run the renamer. Don't think I actually need to do this. This is for BIOS flashback, but we'll do it anyway, just so we've got both versions there. And now I can rename this one. Actually, no, that's fine because it doesn't say it's a copy. So yeah, we're all good. So we've got both versions of the BIOS on the USB stick and the renamer. So that is absolutely fine. So we can close this down, remove the drive, and now I'll get up my BIOS on the system so we can take a look at the existing settings. Okay, so I've just rebooted the computer and we're now in the BIOS, and as you can see it's got the version numbers, etc., temperatures, all that kind of stuff. And it's an Intel i9-13900K, and the RAM is running at DDR5 7200 megatransfers per second. So if we head over into advanced mode, and we'll take a look in AI Tweaker. So currently I've been using this system with the performance preferences set to the ASUS Advanced OC profile. And again, it's been absolutely fine. So I have not been using Intel's default settings. So there is that, so do bear that in mind. And it gives you the warnings when you use it, etc. As you can see, we're on XMP2 as well, and our memory speed is 7200 megatransfers. Other than that, it is all pretty much defaults. The only other thing that I have done are the actual VRM core voltage. So this is basically an offset mode for undervolting. So I've got a negative value of 0.05. And that for me has been working fine. The processor normally will get up to around about 80 degrees Celsius under full loads. You'll see that from the results we've got on the screen a little bit later. So yeah, that is basically the only changes I've made other than turning on XMP. And again, my system has been very stable and has produced very good results, runs very nicely. So let's put in our USB drive. So we'll go into Tools and we'll go into Easy Flash 3 Utility. And we'll choose our removable drive, and there are the BIOS updates. So I'm pretty sure I can use this one here. It says about using or checking your BitLocker. I don't use BitLocker on here, so that's absolutely fine. And we'll click on yes. Do you want to read this file? Yes, we do. Do you want to update? Yes, we do. So that's the right version. And we'll click on yes. So now it's going to update the BIOS. So we'll fast forward through this. At the end, it'll just say that it's completed, and we'll probably try and reboot, and we'll go back into the BIOS and see what it says. So it's come to the end there, and it says update successfully, system will be reset, and you can click on OK, or it will do its own thing. So now the computer has just switched off, so we have no signal currently. So we'll just wait for the system to come back up. I am going to tap the delete key just to make sure that it goes into the BIOS. Okay, so it's eventually restarted, and it's given us a list of all of our components there. So it says, before making any adjustments in the BIOS, please press F5 to load the factory default settings to ensure smooth operation. If setting up Intel RAID, configure VMD options according to the interface type for better compatibility. Now, please press F1 to enter BIOS setup. So that's a little bit confusing. So do I want to press F5 first? Let's press F1. Okay, so now we can press F5 and this will reset it back to its default settings. So we'll click OK for that. And is there any notable changes already straight away in the BIOS? So something which I noticed already, well, the XMP has gone back to 4000. Motherboard temperature, that should be CPU. CPU temperature is there. So CPU temperature is actually a little bit higher at the moment. Anyway, let's go through and do our settings. So we're going to turn on XMP, and actually let's go into advanced mode, and we'll go into AI tweaker, and let's see what we've got here. So we've got Intel default settings, and then we've got Intel default settings, which you've got the option for extreme or performance. So I believe performance is going to be for the non-K processors, whereas extreme is for the K processors. And yeah, Intel blah blah blah. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to leave it as extreme. The XMP I'll set back to XMP2 because I know that has worked absolutely fine in the past. And let's take a look. So multi-core enhancement is now disabled, so we're enforcing all limits, and also the SVID behavior is Intel's failsafe. And we'll see what else. Any other changes? So my previous undervolting has remained the same. So I think what we'll do is we'll do some benchmarks with this now, see how it goes. Make sure that everything is A-OK. And if the performance is basically the same as what it was previously, I'll probably leave it. But I think maybe an undervolt might be necessary, but I guess time will tell. So we'll do exit. We'll save changes and reset. So all I've done here, as you can see there, is I've just turned on XMP, which is realistically what most people are going to want to do. I'm probably going to have to change my fan settings as well, because no doubt they will have been changed as well. So we may need to take a look at that. If I do, I'll do that in between so as not to disrupt things too much for you. Right, let's click OK and we'll go in and see what it's all about. Okay, so I'm not too sure how this video is panning out at the moment. There's a lot of different moving parts in this whole setup. So I think the best thing to do is just, if we take a look at the results we've got here, it does appear that for my particular instance, being that my system was perfectly stable prior to the update, I may have introduced some instabilities. Now, in ASUS's defense for this particular motherboard, they have said this is a beta driver. So potentially there'll be another follow-on update after this to rectify any problems which they may have now introduced. But as it stands now, so we've got some rough figures here for various different types. So You'll be seeing these on the screen now. I'll read them off of my little sheet I've got here. So we've got 4 states. So we've got the before state, which was effectively stable. We've got then the new microcode at the stock settings. Then we've got the new microcode stock settings with an undervolt, as you saw in the video. And then finally, we've got the ASUS optimized and also undervolted. So let's take a look at the results there. So for CPU Z single core scores, we've got 897 to start with. Then we actually improved to 902 points. Then with the undervolt, we then went back down to 897. And for some bizarre reason, with the ASUS optimized and undervolted for our single core, it does appear we were slightly restricted, although very, very slightly, with 892.7 points. So from that, I'm thinking that the new BIOS update has done something to stop the single cores just racing away and grabbing as much voltage and amperage as they want to, therefore restrict them slightly. So that would kind of indicate what is going on here. It's not the end of the world, and CPU Z is a very minor test anyway. So let's take a look how it affects the multiple core setup. So looking at the multi-core, we've got the original, which was 16,852.2. After the update, we dropped quite considerably there to 16,181.5. Then with our undervolt, that actually made things worse again. So 16,010.2. And then finally reverted back to the ASUS optimized along with a slight undervolt. And then we got the best score of the lot. So 16,886.5. So in this situation, what we've got is when we're using multiple cores, we've actually got a slight improvement in performance, but for single cores, we've got a slight degradation. So let's take a look and see how that affects our Cinebench score. So the first Cinebench score, we've got 38,351 points, which is about what we should be seeing, a little bit on the low side. Then with the new microcode update at stock settings, we had a significant drop off, 36,229 points. Then with the added undervolt of that, reducing it slightly more to 35,892 points. So just over 200 points drop. But the best result there was with the ASUS optimized and undervolted settings, which is my preferred settings. And we got a score of 39,314 points. So that's actually a pretty decent result. So at the moment, as that stands, Cinebench, because I do a lot of video editing, Cinebench is a really good example of if my system's performing as it should do. So for me, that is definitely a win using the ASUS settings rather than Intel's defaults. So when it comes to gaming, let's see how it reflects there. So this is just running TimeSpy, just standard TimeSpy. So the original state got 23,849 points, which actually is the best score. Then with the new microcode update and the stock settings, TimeSpy refused to finish, so we get a big fat 0, and there were multiple crashes there, which hopefully I've got some footage of, so you can see that it basically was quite unstable under gaming loads. So I tried the same thing again with a little bit of undervolt with the stock microcode settings. We then got similar score, so 23,460 points, still about 400 points down. Then finally I tried it with the ASUS optimized and undervolted settings, or my own settings, and then we got 23,693. So getting a little bit better, a slight improvement there, still not quite as good as what we had originally. So there does appear that with this update, there is some slight degradation, although it is very minimal. So my recommendations coming through this, if your system is already experiencing instability, then I would certainly suggest updating the BIOS. Get the latest microcode update for your particular motherboard and see if it helps. Potentially, you may find it actually might make things slightly worse. This is a very fluid situation, so we are expecting further updates and more clarification on what the actual limits are and what they do and what is affected. For me personally here with this motherboard, I'm thinking that really I probably shouldn't have done this, but I think it's actually a good thing to do to test it so I can relate my experiences to those of you out there who perhaps are having similar experience where your system was actually okay. You thought, well, let's do the update just to protect the processor as recommended by Intel and their system partners, and potentially you've come off slightly worse. I certainly have done. In some instances, it's a little bit of swings and roundabouts, but like I said, This is a very fluid situation, so I will be monitoring the BIOS updates. The next BIOS update, which hopefully will not be a beta one, we'll give that a go and see how things improve, if indeed they do. I think this is still going to be very much a work in process for Intel and ASUS themselves, trying to work out all the little kinks in this just to make things as stable as it possibly can be, and also to preserve the longevity of the processors. So I think that's going to pretty much wrap this video up. If you've enjoyed it, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, maybe consider hitting subscribe and also the chime notification. That way you'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.